Zariah James only meant to deliver a misfiled folder to the CEO's office, but the moment she stepped into Dominic Vale's hidden world, nothing at Valencorp would ever be the same again. Before we get into the story, comment below wherein the world you are watching from today. Zariah James pulled her sweater tighter as the air conditioning blasted through the 40th floor of Valencorp headquarters. Even in summer, the office felt like winter, and her small desk near the air vent didn't help matters. She'd been working as a junior file clerk for 8 months now and still couldn't get used to the cold. "Ms. James, I need these organized and filed before you leave today," Mr. Peterson said, dropping a stack of folders on her desk. He didn't wait for a response, just walked away expecting it to be done. "Yes, sir," Zariah said softly, even though he was already gone. That was how things worked at Valencorp. People like her, junior employees, especially women of color, were barely seen and rarely heard. But Zariah needed this job. After spending years helping her mom with her younger siblings, this position was her first step toward independence. The day dragged on as Zariah sorted through endless paperwork. Most were standard contracts and reports, but one folder caught her eye. It had Vale Confidential stamped across it in bold red letters. This wasn't supposed to be in her stack. Documents meant for Dominic Vale, the CEO, usually went through his executive assistant, Ms. Winters, not the file room. Zariah glanced at the clock, 7:30 p.m. Most employees had gone home hours ago. She should probably leave the folder on Ms. Winters' desk, but knowing Mr. Peterson, he'd blame Zariah if it wasn't delivered properly. Taking a deep breath, she headed toward the executive floor. She'd never been there before. Junior clerks had no business near the CEO's office. The 45th floor was different. Plush carpet instead of tile, real artwork on the walls instead of motivational posters. Zariah felt out of place as she approached Ms. Winters' desk, which sat empty outside a large office door that read, "Dominic Vale, Chief Executive Officer." She placed the folder on Ms. Winters' desk, but hesitated when she noticed the CEO's door was slightly ajar. A soft light spilled from the crack. Was he still here this late? She should just leave. But what if the document was urgent? Mr. Peterson would have her head if she didn't at least try to deliver it. Before she could talk herself out of it, Zariah knocked gently on the door. No answer. She knocked again, a little louder this time. Still nothing. "Hello?" she called softly, pushing. The door opened a few more inches. "Mr. Vale?" The office was quiet, almost untouched, like a museum display. Heavy curtains were drawn across floor-to-ceiling windows. No papers scattered across the massive desk. No coffee cups or personal items. Just a single lamp in the corner, casting a warm glow over a leather chair and small table. On the table sat a half-empty bottle of scotch and a glass with amber liquid. She'd never seen a CEO's office before, but this wasn't what she expected. It felt sad, empty. Where were the family photos, the awards, the personality? Zariah took a tentative step inside, clutching the folder to her chest. She'd just leave it on his desk and go. No one would know she'd been here. "What are you doing in my office?" The deep voice made her jump. Dominic Vale stood in the doorway, his tall frame blocking the exit. In his dark suit with his arms crossed, he looked exactly like the intimidating CEO whose photo hung in the lobby, except for his eyes. In person, they looked tired, haunted. I'm sorry," Zariah stammered. "The door was open and I had this file to deliver and—" "No one comes in here," he said flatly. "Ever. I'm so sorry, Mr. Vale. I'll leave right away." Zariah placed the folder on his desk and turned to go, her heart pounding. "Wait." She froze, terrified she was about to get fired. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Zariah James, junior file clerk, sir." He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "You're not afraid of me?" It wasn't a question, but Zariah answered anyway. "I am, actually, but I'm more afraid of losing my job." To her surprise, the corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. "Why are you here so late, Miss James?" he asked. "I was finishing up some filing, sir. Mr. Peterson needed it. Done today." Dominic walked to his desk and picked up the folder she'd delivered. He opened it, glanced at the contents, then tossed it aside. "Not urgent," he said. Peterson likes to create false deadlines, makes him feel important. Zoraya didn't know how to respond to that. Criticizing her boss to the CEO seemed unwise, even if he started it. "Can I go now, sir?" she asked. Instead of answering, Dominic walked to the corner table and picked up his glass. "Do you drink scotch, Miss James?" What?" The question caught her off guard. "Scotch. Do you drink it?" "No, sir. I'm not much of a drinker." He nodded, as if her answer revealed something important. "So what does Zoraya James drink after a long day of taking orders from men like Peterson?" She shifted uncomfortably. "Tea, mostly. Sometimes hot chocolate." He gestured to the chair opposite his. "Sit with me for a minute." It wasn't a request, so much as a command. Zoraya hesitated, then slowly sat down, perching on the edge of the chair. "Relax," he said. "I'm not going to fire you for delivering a file." The tension in her shoulders eased slightly, but she remained alert. Everyone knew about Dominic Vale, brilliant, ruthless, and completely closed off since his divorce 2 years. So the man who built Valencorp from nothing had become a ghost in his own company, rarely seen outside his office. When he did appear, he was cold and distant. "How long have you worked here?" he asked, taking a sip of his scotch. 8 months, sir." "And how do you like it?" Zoraya considered her answer carefully. "The benefits are good, and the pay is better than my last job." "That's not what I asked." She met his gaze, surprised by his directness. "It's fine, sir. I'm grateful for the opportunity." "Grateful," he repeated, rolling the word around like he was tasting it. "But are you happy here, Miss James?" The question startled her. No one at Valencorp had ever asked about her happiness. "I'm not unhappy," she said finally. Dominic studied her for a long moment, then set his glass down. Honesty, rare in this building. They sat in silence for a while. Zoraya expected it to feel uncomfortable, but somehow it wasn't. There was something calming about the quiet office, the soft lamplight, and the man who seemed content just to sit with her. "Tell me something about yourself that isn't on your employee file," he said suddenly. Zoraya blinked. "Sir?" "Something personal, something true." She thought about it. "I used to paint. Watercolors mostly." "Used to? Why did you stop?" "No time. Between work and helping my mum with my younger siblings, there's not much left for hobbies." He nodded as if this made perfect sense. "Family is important to you." "Yes, it's everything." "Everything," he echoed, staring into his glass. "Must be nice." Before she could respond, he stood abruptly. "It's late. You should go home." Zoraya rose quickly. "Yes, sir. Thank you for being understanding about the file." He walked her to the door, then paused. "Miss James?" "Yes?" "What you saw here tonight, the office, our conversation, keep it to yourself." She nodded. "Of course. Good night, then." "Good night, Mr. Vale." As the elevator carried her down to the lobby, Zoraya tried to make sense of what had just happened. She'd spent 15 minutes with the CEO, the man people whispered about but never approached, and he'd been, not kind exactly, but human, real. She didn't expect to ever speak to him again. The next day passed in a blur of filing and phone calls. Zoraya tried not to think about her strange encounter with Dominic Vale, but found her eyes drifting to the executive elevator throughout the day. At 6 p.m., Mr. Peterson dropped off another stack of files with his usual "before you leave" instruction. By 7:45, Zoraya was finally done. As she gathered her things to go home, her desk phone rang. "File department, this is Zoraya," she answered. "Ms. James?" The deep voice was unmistakable. "I need you to bring folder A7532 to my office immediately." The line went dead before she could respond. Zoraya stared at the phone, then hurried to the file cabinets. She quickly located A7532, a thin folder containing market projections for the coming quarter. Her hands trembled slightly as she rode the elevator to the 45th floor. Why would the CEO need her to deliver this? Why not ask his assistant once? Again, she found herself outside his office door, which was closed this time. She knocked. "Come in." The office looked the same as the night before, curtains drawn, lamp lit in the corner. Dominic stood by the windows, his back to her. The file. "You requested, sir," she said, placing it on his desk. He turned to face her. "Thank you, Ms. James." She waited for him to say something else, to explain why he'd called her specifically. When he didn't, she turned to leave. "Would you like some tea?" Zariah stopped. "Tea?" He gestured to a small side table where a tea set waited. I remembered. "You mentioned tea yesterday. You had tea brought up for me?" she asked, confused. "I asked Ms. Winters to order it before she left. English breakfast, Earl Grey and chamomile. I wasn't sure which you preferred." Zariah was speechless. The CEO of Valencorp had remembered their conversation and ordered tea for her. "Chamomile would be nice," she said finally. Dominic nodded and poured hot water from a small electric kettle. He handed her the cup, then poured himself a scotch. "Please, sit." This time, she settled more comfortably in the chair. The tea was perfect, just what she needed after a long day. "Did you need me to explain something in the file?" she asked. "No, I just wanted company." The blunt admission surprised her. "Me? Why?" He took a sip of his scotch. "Because you don't look at me like I'm broken. Or like you want something from me. I don't understand. Since my divorce, people either pity me or they're trying to figure out how to use my situation to their advantage. You did neither." Zariah cradled her teacup. "I don't know anything about your divorce, Mr. Vale." "Good. I'd like to keep it that way." He leaned back in his chair. "Tell me about your painting instead." And so she did. She told him about her first watercolor set, a gift from her father before he left, about the landscapes she used to paint from memory, about the stack of canvases under her bed that no one had ever seen. He listened intently, asking questions that showed he was actually interested. When was the last time someone had really listened to her like this? "You should start again," he said when she finished. "Maybe someday, when things settle down." "Things never settle down, Ms. James. You have to make time for what matters." Coming from anyone else, it would have sounded like empty advice. But something in his voice made her believe he was speaking from experience. They talked for over an hour, about books they'd both read, about the city, about nothing and everything. Zariah found herself laughing at his dry observations about other executives. He never quite smiled, but his eyes lost some of their haunted look. When she finally glanced at her watch, she gasped. "It's after 9, I should go." He stood when she did. "Thank you for the company, Ms. James. Thank you for the tea, Mr. Vale." At the door, he stopped her with a light touch on her arm. Would you come back? Tomorrow? Same time?" Zariah knew she should say no. Whatever this was, it couldn't be appropriate. But she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward this complex, lonely man. "Yes," she said. "Tomorrow." For the next 2 weeks, Zariah developed a new routine. She'd finish her work, then head to the 45th floor. Sometimes they'd talk for just half an hour. Other nights, the conversation would stretch past midnight. No one knew about their meetings, not her friends at work, not her family, certainly not Ms. Winters or Mr. Peterson. In his office, with the door closed, they existed in their own private world. Dominic never touched her, never made an inappropriate comment, but sometimes she'd catch him looking at her in a way that made her heart race, and sometimes she'd find herself watching the strong line of his jaw as he spoke, wondering what it would feel like under her fingers. She told herself it was harmless. They were just talking. He was lonely and she was... what? A friendly ear? A distraction? She tried not to examine her own feelings too closely. Then came the night that changed everything. Zariah arrived at his office at the usual time, but found the door locked. She stood there, confused and embarrassed. Had she misunderstood? Had he grown tired of their conversations? She was about to leave when she noticed something hanging from the doorknob. A key. A small note was attached. Her hands shook as she read the message. "You don't need an invitation anymore. You're already inside." Zariah stared at the key, her pulse pounding in her ears. What did this mean? Was this just about access to his office? Or was he offering her something more, access to his carefully guarded heart? With trembling fingers, she slipped the key into the lock and turned it, stepping into the darkness beyond. The office was dark except for the soft glow of the lamp. In the corner, Zariah stood just inside the doorway, the key clutched tightly in her hand. The room felt different tonight, like she was crossing a threshold that went beyond the physical door. "Mr. Vale?" she called softly. No answer. She moved further into the office, looking around. Everything appeared as it usually did, but there was no sign of Dominic. Had he given her the key and then left? What was she supposed to do now? On his desk, she noticed a folded piece of paper with her name written on it. She opened it and read, "Zariah, I've been called to an emergency meeting downtown. I don't know how long I'll be. Make yourself comfortable. Consider this space yours as much as mine now. D." She traced her finger over his bold handwriting. No one had ever given her a space like this before, especially not someone like Dominic Vale, the junior file clerk with access to the CEO's private sanctuary. It almost made her laugh. Uncertain what to do, Zariah settled into her usual chair and pulled out the novel she'd brought in her purse. She'd wait a little while just in case he returned soon. An hour passed, then 2. She was about to give up and go home when the door opened and Dominic walked in, looking exhausted. His tie was loosened, his normally perfect hair slightly disheveled. "You stayed," he said, his voice revealing mild surprise. "I wasn't sure if I should." She held up the key. "This is a lot." He shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it over a chair. "Is it? I thought it was practical. This way you don't have to wait if I'm running late." "It feels like more than that," Zariah said carefully. Dominic poured himself a scotch, then hesitated. "Would you like one tonight?" She nodded. "Just a small one." He handed her a glass and sat in his usual chair. The meeting was a disaster. Harrison is trying to push through budget cuts that would gut R&D, as if innovation isn't what built this company. Zariah took a small sip of her drink, wincing slightly at the burn. "You don't talk about work much. I don't want to bore you." "It's not boring, it's your life." He looked at her oddly. "A very small part of it. Is it? You're here more than anywhere else." Dominic seemed to consider this. "That's depressingly accurate." He leaned forward. "But when you're here, I don't think about Valencorp or stock prices or Harrison's short-sighted proposals. I think about the person sitting across from me, the woman who paints watercolors and drinks tea and takes care of her family." Zariah's cheeks warmed. "Why me? You could talk to anyone." "No, I can't." He swirled the amber liquid in his glass. "People want things from me. Or they're afraid of me. Or they've already decided who I am based on rumors and news articles." "What rumors?" she asked, genuinely curious. His expression darkened. "That I'm cold, heartless. That I drove my wife away because I cared more about this company than her. That I'm broken." "Are you?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. "Broken?" He gave a humorless laugh. "Maybe, but not how they think." He finished his drink. "Enough about me. Tell me something I don't know about you." Zariah knew. He was changing the subject, but she let him. "I've been saving up to take classes at the community college, business administration." His eyebrows rose. "You want to be in business?" "I want options. Filing isn't exactly a career path." "You're ambitious." He said it like it was a compliment. "Is that surprising?" "No, just refreshing." He set his glass down. "Valencorp has a tuition assistance program, full coverage for approved programs." Zariah shook her head. "It's only for employees at level 3 or above. I checked." Dominic frowned. "That policy needs to change." "You can do that? Just change company policy?" He looked amused. "I'm the CEO, Zariah. I can change whatever I want." It was the first time he'd used her first name. The way it sounded in his deep voice sent a shiver down her spine. "Don't do it because of me," she said quickly. "That would look... people would talk." "Let them." But he saw her discomfort and added, "It's a good business decision anyway. We should be developing talent at all levels." They fell into easy conversation after that, as they always did. Zariah told him about her youngest brother's science fair project. He told her about the book he was reading. The scotch warmed her from the inside, making her more relaxed than usual. When midnight approached, she reluctantly stood to leave. "It's late. I should go." Dominic walked her to the door. "Will you come tomorrow?" "Yes." He hesitated, then reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers barely brushed her skin, but the contact sent electricity through her. "Good night, Zariah." "Good night, Dominic." His name felt intimate on her lips, a small rebellion against the professional barriers between them. His eyes darkened at the sound, and for a moment she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he stepped back, giving her space to leave. In the elevator down to the lobby, Zariah pressed her cool palms to her burning cheeks. What was she doing? Getting involved with the CEO, even just as friends, was dangerous territory, but when she closed her eyes, all she could see was the way he looked at her, like she mattered, like she was the only person in his world. The next morning, Zariah was sorting files when Mr. Peterson appeared at her desk, his face pinched with annoyance. "The executive floor is requesting your presence," he said, as if the words tasted bad. "Immediately." "Me?" Zariah asked, confused. "Why? How should I know? Just go." Heart racing, she took the elevator up to the 45th floor. Had someone discovered her evening visits to Dominic's office? Was she about to be fired? To her surprise, Ms. Winters greeted her with a tight smile. "Ms. James, please follow me." Instead of leading her to Dominic's office, Ms. Winters took her to a large conference room where several executives sat around a table. Dominic was at the head, looking every bit the powerful CEO in his tailored suit, nothing like the man who shared scotch with her in the quiet hours. Ms. James," he said formally, "thank you for joining us. Please have a seat." Zariah sat nervously, aware of the curious looks from the others. "Ms. James," Dominic continued, "we're discussing changes to the company's tuition assistance program. As someone who might benefit from such changes, we'd like your perspective." She nearly gasped. He was actually doing it, changing company policy because of their conversation, but he was being careful, making it seem like she was just one of many employees being consulted. For the next hour, Zariah listened as the executives debated various aspects of the program. Occasionally, Dominic would ask for her opinion, treating her input with the same respect he showed the VPs. By the end, they had approved a new policy extending tuition benefits to all full-time employees, regardless of level. As the meeting wrapped up, Dominic addressed her. "Thank you for your contributions today, Ms. James. You've been very helpful." "Happy to help, Mr. Vale," she replied, keeping her voice professional. Back at her desk, Zariah tried to process what had just happened. Dominic had used his power to help her and others like her without making it obvious that she was the reason. It was thoughtful, considerate, dangerous. That evening, she hesitated before going to his office. Their relationship was changing, evolving into something she couldn't define, but the pull toward him was too strong to resist. When she arrived, she found the door unlocked. Inside, Dominic sat at his desk, working on his laptop. He looked up. When she entered, his face softening. "I was beginning to think you weren't coming," he said. "I almost didn't." She took her usual seat. "The meeting today, was that necessary?" "The policy change was. The meeting was just for show." He closed his laptop. "Are you upset?" "No." "Yes." "I don't know." She sighed. "It feels like you did it. For me." "I did. But it's also good for the company." He moved to sit across from her. "What's really bothering you, Zariah?" She met his gaze. "What are we doing here? These meetings, the key, today's policy change. What is this?" Dominic was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," he finally admitted. "I just know that when you're here, I feel better, less hollow. And when I'm not, I count the hours until you are." The raw honesty in his voice made her breath catch. This was more than friendship, more than a boss being kind to an employee. This was something neither of them had put a name to yet. "People will talk if they find out," she said quietly. "I don't care what people say. Easy for you to say. You're the CEO. Don't." His voice was sharp. "Don't say you're just anything." Zariah stood and walked to the window, pulling back the heavy curtain to look at the city lights below. 2 months ago, I'd never even spoken to you. Now I'm here every night, drinking your scotch, talking like we've known each other forever. It doesn't make sense." She felt him behind her, close but not touching. "Does it have to?" Yes, she whispered. Because I don't know what happens next. His hand touched her shoulder, gently turning her to face him. Whatever you want to happen, or nothing at all. It's your choice, Zariah. She looked up at him, at the face she'd come to know so well. The sharp jawline that tensed when he was stressed. The eyes that could be ice-cold in meetings but warmed when they looked at her. The mouth that rarely smiled but spoke to her with such honesty. Before she could overthink it, she rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. A soft, brief kiss. He stood perfectly still, his expression unreadable. For a terrible moment, she thought she'd misunderstood everything. Then his arms wrapped around her, pulling her against him as his mouth claimed hers with an intensity that took her breath away. He kissed her like a man starved, like he'd been waiting for this moment his entire life. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, he rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since the night you walked into my office. Me too, she admitted. His fingers traced the curve of her cheek. We should talk about what this means. Tomorrow, she said, pulling him down for another kiss. We'll talk tomorrow. The next day, rumors swept through Valencorp. Someone had seen Zariah leaving the executive floor late at night. Someone else claimed Miss Winters was looking into her personnel file. By lunchtime, Zariah could feel the stares and whispers following her everywhere. Her friend Tasha cornered her in the break room. Girl, what is going on? Everyone's talking about you and the Ice King. It's nothing, Zariah insisted, though her flushed cheeks said otherwise. Honey, that blush ain't nothing, spill. Before Zariah could respond, Mr. Peterson appeared in the doorway. James, my office, now. With a sinking feeling, she followed him. In his office, he closed the door and faced her with barely concealed disgust. I don't know what game you're playing, he said, but it ends now. I don't know what you're talking about, she replied, keeping her voice steady. Don't play dumb. Everyone knows you've been spending time with Vale. He leaned forward. Let me give you some advice. Men like him don't end up with women like you. You're a distraction, a novelty. When he's done with you, you'll still need a job, and I'll be the one deciding if you keep it. Anger flared in Zariah's chest. Are you threatening me, Mr. Peterson? I'm giving you a reality check. Whatever he's promised you, promotions, special treatment, it won't last. He hasn't promised me anything. Peterson laughed coldly. Then you're even more naive than I thought, he waved dismissively. Get back to work and stay away from the executive floor unless you're specifically called for. Shaken, Zariah returned to her desk. Was Peterson right? Was she just a novelty? To Dominic, a warm body filling a cold space in his life. She didn't go to his office that night, or the next. She needed to think, to separate her feelings from the reality of their situation. On the third day, as she was preparing to leave work, her desk phone rang. Where are you? Dominic's voice was tight with concern. I'm still at my desk, she answered quietly. You haven't come up? For 3 days. I know. A pause. Have I done something wrong? No. She sighed. Can we talk? Not in your office. Come to the garage level. My car is in space. 1. 20 minutes later, Zariah found herself in the passenger seat of Dominic's sleek black Audi, driving through the city with no particular destination. Talk to me, he said, after they'd been driving in silence for several minutes. Everyone knows, she started, about us spending time together. They're talking. And Peterson basically threatened my job. He said, she hesitated. He said I'm just a novelty to you, that when you're done with me, I'll still need a job. Dominic's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Peterson said that to you? I'll have him fired by morning. No, she exclaimed. That would only make things worse. It would prove his point, that I'm using you for special treatment. Are you? He asked bluntly. What? No. How can you even ask that? He pulled the car over and turned to face her. Then why do you care what Peterson or anyone else thinks, unless some part of you believes I'm using you, or that you're using me? Zariah looked away. I don't know what to think anymore. This happened so fast. It doesn't feel real. It's real. To me, he took her hand. Every conversation, every laugh, every look. It's the most real thing in my life right now. But what am I to you? The cleaning lady in the hospital who the coma patient falls for? The charity case you're helping with tuition? Pain flashed across his face. Is that what you think? That? I see you as a project, a charity. I don't know what to think when my boss threatens my job and everyone is whispering behind my back. Zariah, look at me. He waited until she met his gaze. Before you walked into my office, I was empty, just going through the motions. I locked myself away in that room because I couldn't bear to be around people who only saw what they could get from me. And I'm different. You see me, not the CEO, not the divorcee, just me. His voice softened. And I see you, Zariah James, not a file clerk, not a charity case. A woman who loves her family, who paints watercolors, who isn't afraid of silence. She felt tears gathering. That sounds nice, but in the real world, people are going to... The real world is what we make. He brushed a tear from her cheek. I don't care what anyone at Valencorp thinks. I care about you. What about your ex-wife, the woman who shattered you? He winced. You've heard the rumors. Some. Not much. Dominic sighed. Angela and I married young, college sweethearts. As Valencorp grew, I worked longer hours. She felt neglected. Started spending time with an old friend who gave her the attention I didn't. She cheated. Yes? With my former business partner. His voice was flat, emotionless. I found out when their engagement announcement appeared in the Times. 2 months after our divorce was finalized. I'm so sorry. I was angry for a long time, then numb. I threw myself into work, shut everyone out. He looked at her with wonder. Until you walked into my office and apologized for being there. Zariah couldn't help but smile at the memory. I was terrified you'd fire me. I was terrified you'd leave. She leaned across the console and kissed him softly. I'm still scared of what people will say, of getting hurt. I can't promise we won't face challenges, he said, stroking her hair, but I can promise I won't let you face them alone. As they drove back to Valencorp, Zariah felt a new resolve growing inside her. Whatever was happening between them wouldn't be easy. There would be gossip, obstacles, maybe even threats to her job. But for the first time in her life, she was choosing something just for herself. Back in the parking garage, before they parted ways, Dominic pulled her into his arms for one last kiss. Come to my office tomorrow, he asked against her lips. She nodded. I'll bring the tea. And Zariah? He smiled, a real, full smile that transformed his face. Bring your watercolors too. I think it's time you started painting again. As she rode the subway home that night, Zariah thought about the key in her purse. You don't need an invitation anymore. You're already inside. Now she understood. It wasn't just about his office door, it was about his heart. She'd found the key to both. The gossip spread through Valencorp like wildfire. By Monday morning, everyone from the mail room to the executive floor had heard about Zariah James and Dominic. Vale? The whispers followed her everywhere. She's sleeping her way to the top. He's just using her. It won't last a month. Zariah kept her head high, focusing on her work and ignoring the stares. She'd known this would happen. The question was whether what she and Dominic had built was strong enough to withstand it. Did you hear? Tasha whispered, stopping by Zariah's desk with wide eyes. Peterson is furious. He told Jenkins you're getting special treatment because you're... You know? Because I'm what? Zariah asked her, voice sharper than intended. Tasha looked uncomfortable. Because you're seeing the boss. I'm not just seeing the boss, Tasha, we're... What were they exactly? They hadn't put a label on it. We're getting to know each other. Girl, everyone's talking. Barbara in accounting said she saw you too. In his car Thursday night. Zariah sighed. Don't you have work to do? I'm just looking out for you. Tasha leaned closer. They're saying he did the same thing with another girl last year, some intern. She was gone after 2 months. That's not true. Zariah knew it couldn't be. The Dominic she'd come to know over these past weeks wasn't that man. Just be careful, Tasha said, squeezing her shoulder before walking away. Later that morning, a delivery person arrived at Zariah's desk with a large package. Delivery for Zariah James. Inside the box, she found a premium watercolor set with brushes, paints, and high-quality paper. The card simply read, "For when you're ready." Warmth spread through her chest, but it faded quickly when she noticed Mr. Peterson watching from across the room, his expression cold. She tucked the card away and continued working, trying to ignore the knot in her stomach. At lunchtime, her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. "Busy day. Won't be free until late. Dinner at 8. I'll send a car." Zariah hesitated. Meeting outside. The office would be another step. More visibility, more gossip. "Yes," she texted back, "but I can meet you there. Send me the address." That evening, she spent extra time getting ready, changing outfits 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that brought out the warmth in her brown skin. She was nervous, not just about dinner, but about what was happening between them. Was this real, or was she setting herself up for heartbreak? The restaurant was upscale but discreet, tucked away on a quiet street. When she arrived, Dominic was already waiting, looking devastatingly handsome in a charcoal suit with no tie. "You look beautiful," he said, standing to greet her. "Thank you." She smiled nervously. "This place is lovely. I thought we could use some privacy." He held her chair as she sat, away from office eyes. Once they ordered, Zariah relaxed a bit. Outside the confines of Valencorp, it was easier to just be 2 people enjoying dinner. "Thank you for the watercolors," she said. "That was thoughtful." "Did you like them?" "They're perfect." But Peterson saw the delivery. "He's already watching me like I'm doing something wrong." Dominic's expression darkened. He's been a problem for years, too comfortable in his position to actually work, but just competent enough to avoid being fired. "Well, he hates me now." She took a sip of her wine. "And he's not the only one. The rumors are getting worse." "What are they saying?" She looked away. "That I'm not the first. That you've done this before with an intern." He set down his glass with a sharp click. "That's not true." "I know that. But no, Zariah. That's a complete fabrication." His jaw tightened. "I've never been involved with anyone at Valencorp. Not before you." She believed him. The hurt in his eyes was too real to fake. "People like to talk. It's what they do." "It's more than talk if it's hurting you." He reached for her hand. "We could make an official statement, clear the air." "And say what? That the CEO and the file clerk are dating?" "That would just feed the gossip mill." "Then I'll transfer Peterson. Move him to another department where he can't bother you." Zariah shook her head. "That would look like favoritism. It would make things worse." Frustration flashed across his face. "Then what do you suggest?" "I won't have you mistreated because of me." She squeezed his hand. "We just need to be patient. Give people time to see that this isn't some scandal or power play, that it's real." His expression softened. "You're remarkable, you know that? Anyone else would be demanding I fix everything. Use my position to make the problems go away. I don't want you to fix my problems. I want us to face them together." She smiled. "Besides, I'm tougher than I look. I've noticed." He brought her hand to his lips. "That's one of the things I love about you." The word hung between them, not quite a declaration, but more than casual affection. Neither of them acknowledged it, but Zariah felt it settle in her heart, taking root. The rest of dinner passed pleasantly. They talked about books, family, dreams for the future. For a few hours, they weren't CEO and employee, just Dominic and Zariah, discovering each other outside the confines of his office. As they finished dessert, Dominic's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowning. "Problem?" Zariah asked. "Maybe." He scrolled through what looked like an email. "The Johnson deal is hitting some snags. Legal found issues with the contract language. Do you need to go?" He hesitated, clearly torn. "I should review the changes tonight. The signing is tomorrow morning." "Then go," she said. "Work comes first." "No," he said firmly. "Not always. Not anymore." He put his phone away. "It can wait an hour." They lingered over coffee, reluctant to end the evening. When they finally left, he walked her to the corner where she could catch a cab. "I had a wonderful time," she said. "So did I." He pulled her close, not caring who might see them on the street. "Come home with me tonight. The invitation sent a thrill through her, but she gently pulled back. I can't. Not yet. He didn't press, just nodded. Another time then. Soon, she promised, rising on her toes to kiss him. You have that contract. To review anyway. He chuckled, always the voice of reason. As her taxi pulled away, Zariah watched him through the rear window. He stood on the sidewalk until she was out of sight, a solitary figure against the city lights. The next day at work, a new tension filled the air. People were whispering more than usual, shooting glances her way. Tasha rushed to her desk the moment she arrived. Have you seen it? She asked breathlessly. Seen what? Tasha thrust her phone at Zariah. On the screen was a gossip website with the headline, Valencorp CEO's new office romance, business or pleasure. Below was a blurry photo of her and Dominic kissing outside the restaurant. Zariah felt the blood drain from her face. How did they get this? Someone must have recognized him and tipped off the press. Tasha took her phone back. It doesn't name you at least, just calls you an unidentified employee, but it wouldn't take long for people to connect the dots. The article mentioned sources inside Valencorp, claiming the CEO had been spending late nights with a junior employee. It painted Dominic as a powerful executive, taking advantage of a subordinate, and her as an opportunist using a relationship to advance her career. Zariah felt sick. This wasn't just office gossip anymore. This was public. Her desk phone rang. Ms. Winter's clipped voice came through the line. Ms. James, Mr. Vale would like to see you immediately. Heart pounding, Zariah took the elevator to the 45th floor. Ms. Winters didn't make eye contact as she waved her toward Dominic's office. Inside, Dominic was on the phone, his expression thunderous. I don't care what your source said. The story is false, malicious, and an invasion of privacy. Either print a retraction or prepare to hear from our legal team. He slammed the phone down and looked up at Zariah. You've seen it. Yes. She sank into a chair. What do we do? He ran a hand through his hair. I'm having legal look into our options. The photo is an invasion of privacy, and the allegations from inside sources are defamatory. But suing them would just make it a bigger story. I know. He came around the desk and knelt in front of her. I'm sorry, Zariah. I never wanted to drag you into this kind of spotlight. It's not your fault. She touched his face. We both knew there would be talk. Talk is one thing. This is... He shook his head. This feels targeted, like someone is trying to hurt us. A knock at the door interrupted them. Ms. Winters poked her head in. Mr. Vale, the board is requesting an emergency meeting about the situation. Dominic stood. Tell them 15 minutes. When Ms. Winters left, he turned back to Zariah. I need to handle this. Will you be okay? She nodded, though she wasn't sure. What are you going to tell the board? The truth. That my personal life is my own business, and that you're not receiving any special treatment. He paused. Well, that's not entirely true. You did get a key to my office. The attempt at humor fell flat. They both knew this was serious. Go, she said. Deal with the board. I'll be fine. As she walked back to her desk, Zariah felt the stares intensify. News traveled fast. By now, everyone knew she was the unidentified employee in the article. Mr. Peterson was waiting for her. James, my office. She followed him, bracing herself for more threats or accusations. Instead, she found herself facing not just Peterson, but the head of HR as well, Ms. James, the HR director said, her tone professionally neutral. In light of recent publicity, we need to discuss your position here at Valencorp. Am I being fired? Zariah asked bluntly. The HR director looked uncomfortable. No, but we're concerned about the appearance of impropriety. Valencorp has strict policies about relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Mr. Vale isn't my direct supervisor. Mr. Peterson is. Mr. Vale is the CEO. He's effectively everyone's supervisor, Peterson said smugly. The HR director nodded. For the sake of both parties, we think it would be best if you accepted a transfer to one of our satellite offices. We have an opening. In Chicago, that would be a lateral move, same pay grade. Zariah couldn't believe what she was hearing. You want to send me away because I'm dating Dominic? We want to protect the company from the appearance of favoritism or coercion, the HR director corrected. And if I refuse, Peterson smiled thinly. Then we'd need to reassess your continued employment with Valencorp. You can't fire me for having a relationship with another employee. That's discrimination. We can fire you for violating company policy regarding disclosure of relationships, Peterson countered, which you failed to do. I'm not accepting a transfer to Chicago, Zariah said firmly, and I'm not resigning. The HR director sighed. Then we'll need to place you on administrative leave while we consult with legal. With pay, of course. For how long? Until this situation is resolved. In other words, until she and Dominic ended their relationship or one of them left the company. The message was clear. They couldn't both stay at Valencorp as things were. Fine. Administrative leave. Zariah stood. Is there anything else? You'll need to clear out your desk and turn in your ID badge, Peterson said, clearly enjoying this. I'll need to speak with Mr. Vale first. Peterson's smile faltered. That won't be necessary. He's in a board meeting. Then I'll wait until he's done. She turned to the HR director. Unless you want to add denied access to executive management to the list of potential legal issues here. The HR director winced. You can wait in the break room on this floor. I'll let you know when Mr. Vale is available. Zariah spent the next 2 hours sitting alone in the break room, ignored by everyone who came in. She tried Dominic's cell phone twice, but got no answer. Finally, Ms. Winters appeared. Mr. Vale can see you now. Dominic looked exhausted when she entered his office. The board meeting just ended. What's this I hear about administrative leave? Zariah explained what had happened. With each word, his expression darkened. This is unacceptable, he said when she finished. They can't force you out because of our relationship. According to them, they can, company policy. I am the company. He stood and began pacing. I'll overturn the decision, fire Peterson, change the policy, and prove everyone right about me getting special treatment? She shook her head. That would just make things worse. He stopped pacing. Then what do we do? I'm not losing you, Zariah, not over this. Maybe we need some distance, just for a while. Pain flashed across his face. You want to end this, what we have? No, that's not what I'm saying. She moved to him, taking his hands. I'm saying maybe we need to be more discreet. Give the gossip time to die down. That won't solve the underlying problem. As long as you work here and we're together, people will talk. Then maybe I shouldn't work here, he stared at her. You're quitting? Not quitting. Just considering my options. She took a deep breath. You said Valencorp has a tuition assistance program now. Maybe it's time I used it. Go back to school full-time. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Is that what you want? Or is it what you think you need to do to make this easier? Both, maybe. She touched his face. I've been talking about school for years, and being here, with everyone whispering, and Peterson watching my every move. It's not good for either of us. I don't want you to leave because of me. I'd be leaving for me, for my future. She smiled softly. A future that includes you, if that's what you want. He pulled her into his arms. It's what I want more than anything, but I hate the idea of you giving up your job because of office politics and gossip. I'm not giving up, I'm moving forward. She rested her head against his chest. Besides, I was never meant to be a file clerk forever. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet of his office. The room that had once been his sanctuary where no one was allowed to enter had become their shared space, a place where they could just be themselves, away from the judgments and expectations of the world outside. Go home, he said finally. Take the administrative leave, I'll have legal look into our options, and in the meantime, he hesitated. In the meantime, I have an idea. What kind of idea? A smile played at the corners of his mouth. A way to change the narrative, but I need a few days to put it together. That sounds mysterious, trust me. She nodded. Always. As Zariah gathered her things from her desk, surrounded by curious stares, she felt strangely calm. Whatever happened next, whether she stayed at Valencorp or left, whether the gossip died down or intensified, she knew one thing for certain. What she and Dominic had found in that quiet office was worth fighting for. The next few days passed in a blur. Zaraya used her unexpected free time to research business programs at local colleges. She also set up her watercolors, starting small with simple landscapes. The familiar motions of brush on paper soothed her, helping to quiet the anxiety about her uncertain future. Dominic called each night but remained vague about his idea. All he would say was that he was working on something important, something that might change everything. He asked her to be patient, to trust him a little longer. On the fourth day of her leave, a courier delivered an envelope to her apartment. Inside was a formal invitation to a Valencorp charity gala happening that weekend, along with a note from Dominic. "Wear something that makes you feel powerful. I'll send a car at 7. Zaraya stared at the invitation in confusion. A public event was the last thing they needed right now, with the gossip still fresh. What was he thinking? She called him immediately but got his voicemail. Frustrated, she left a message asking him to explain, but he didn't call back. Only a text. "Trust me, please." So on Saturday evening, she found herself in a floor-length, emerald gown, sitting in the back of a luxury car headed to one of the most prestigious hotels in the city. Her stomach was in knots. Everyone from Valencorp would be there, executives, board members, Peterson. The thought made her want to tell the driver to turn around, but Dominic had asked her to trust him, and despite everything, she did. The hotel. Ballroom was filled with New York's elite, business leaders, politicians, celebrities. Zaraya hesitated at the entrance, scanning the crowd for Dominic. She spotted him near the front of the room, deep in conversation with an older man she recognized as the chairman of the board. As if sensing her presence, Dominic looked up. His eyes found hers across the crowded room, and the world seemed to stop. He excused himself and made his way to her, elegant in his tuxedo. Heads turned as he approached, whispers following in his wake. "You look stunning," he said, taking her hand. "What are we doing here?" she whispered. "Everyone is staring." "Let them." He smiled, a confident, almost mischievous expression she'd never seen before. "Tonight we're changing the story." "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, the chairman of the board called for everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Valencorp's annual charity gala. As always, proceeds. From tonight's event, go to support education initiatives for underprivileged youth." As the chairman spoke, Dominic led Zaraya to a table near the front, where several board members and their spouses were seated. He held her chair for her, then took the seat beside her, his hand finding hers under the table. "And now," the chairman continued, "I'd like to introduce our CEO, Dominic Vale, who has an exciting announcement to make." Dominic squeezed her hand, then stood and walked to the podium. The room fell silent as he adjusted the microphone. "Thank you all for being here tonight. Valencorp has always been committed to education, to creating opportunities for bright minds to reach their full potential." His eyes found Zaraya's. "Tonight, I'm proud to announce a new initiative, the Valencorp Future Leaders Scholarship." Whispers rippled through the crowd. This program will provide full tuition and living expenses for employees pursuing advanced degrees in business and technology fields. Recipients will maintain their employment status and benefits while studying full-time, with a guaranteed position at Valencorp upon graduation. Zaraya's heart began to race. Was this for her? The first recipient of this scholarship, Dominic continued, has already been selected based on her exceptional work ethic, innovative thinking, and demonstrated commitment to both her career and education. Please join me in congratulating Ms. Zaraya James, who will be pursuing her MBA at Columbia University this fall. The room erupted in applause. Zaraya sat frozen in shock as all eyes turned to her. This was his plan. To announce her scholarship in front of everyone? Dominic returned to their table, taking her hand and gently pulling her to her feet. "Surprise?" he whispered with a smile. She managed to smile and nod at the applauding crowd, but inside her emotions were in turmoil. As soon as they were seated again and attention had moved elsewhere, she leaned close to him. "What did you just do?" she whispered. "Changed the narrative," he replied simply. No one can say you're getting special treatment now. The scholarship program is open to any qualifying employee. You're just the first recipient, chosen by an independent committee of academic advisors. Independent committee? When did all this happen? I've been working on it since you went on leave. The board approved it yesterday. Zariah was speechless. He'd created an entire scholarship program just to protect her reputation and give her a legitimate way to pursue her education without quitting. I thought you'd be happy, he said, uncertainty creeping into his voice for the first time that evening. I am. She shook her head. This is a lot to process. Did you really create a whole scholarship program because of me? For you, he corrected. But not just for you. It's something Valencorp should have done years ago. You just helped me see that. He took her hand. This way you can get your degree without sacrificing your career, and no one can claim you're receiving preferential treatment because of our relationship. Our relationship that everyone now knows about since you just announced my name to the entire New York business community. That's the point. We're not hiding anymore. No more secrets, no more whispers. His eyes were intense. I'm not ashamed of caring about you, Zariah. I don't want to sneak around like we're doing something wrong. Before she could respond, Peterson appeared at their table, his face a mask of forced politeness. Congratulations, Ms. James. What a surprise. Thank you, Mr. Peterson, she replied coolly. Yes, we're all quite impressed with how quickly this scholarship program came together, he said, his tone implying exactly the opposite. Dominic's smile didn't reach his eyes. When something's important, Peterson, I make it happen. Perhaps you should try it sometime. Peterson's face reddened. If you'll excuse me, I should congratulate the other board members on this innovative program. As he walked away, Zariah couldn't help but laugh. He looks like he swallowed a lemon. You'll have to get used to it, especially since you'll be returning to Valencorp after your MBA, likely as his supervisor. She raised an eyebrow. Is that a promise? It's an inevitability. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. You're extraordinary, Zariah. With or without me. This scholarship just gives you the opportunity to show everyone else what I already know. For the rest of the evening, they mingled with Valencorp executives and board members. Zariah was surprised by how many people seemed genuinely supportive of the scholarship program and of her selection as its first recipient. Even Ms. Winters offered stiff congratulations. By the time they left, the tone of the whispers had changed. No longer were people wondering if she was sleeping her way to the top. Now they were speculating about what talents the CEO had seen in her that they had missed. In the car ride back to her apartment, Zariah finally relaxed against Dominic's shoulder. That was unexpected. But good, he asked, his arm around her. Very good, though I'm still processing the fact that I'm apparently going to Columbia in the fall. He chuckled. Only if you want to. The scholarship is real, and it's yours if you choose to accept it. But there's no pressure. She looked up at him. You really did all this for me. I did it for us. He kissed her softly. I want a future with you, Zariah. One where we don't have to choose between our relationship and your career. What about the gossip, the articles? Let them talk. As long as we know the truth, nothing else matters. As the car pulled up to her building, Dominic took her hand. Stay with me tonight. This time she didn't hesitate. Yes. The night air was cool as they walked from the car to his penthouse apartment. In the elevator, he pulled her close, his lips finding hers in a kiss that held both tenderness and hunger. Inside his home, a spacious, modern penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, he led her to the balcony. The lights of New York sparkled below them, a sea of possibilities. I love you, Zariah, he said, his voice steady and sure. I think I've loved you since that first night in my office, when you stood there holding that file, not making excuses. She touched, his face tracing the strong line of his jaw. I love you too, Dominic. So even when I was afraid to admit it, even when it seemed impossible, I loved you. He took something from his pocket, a small velvet box. This isn't, I'm not proposing, not yet, but I want you to know that's where we're heading, if that's what you want too. Inside the box was a delicate silver key on a chain, different from the key to his office, but somehow more significant. "Another key?" she asked, smiling through sudden tears. "To my home, to my life." He placed it around her neck. "You're already inside my heart. You have been since the beginning." As Zariah looked up at the man who had once been described as cold, controlled, hollow, she saw none of those things. Instead, she saw warmth, love, and a future full of open doors, doors they would walk through together. "The room he never opened," she whispered, touching the key at her throat. Dominic smiled, understanding her meaning perfectly. "Not until you walked in." And as the night embraced them, Zariah knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, school, career, the continued, whispers of those who would never understand, they would face them side by side, with hearts open and no more locked doors between them. 6 months had passed since the charity gala where Dominic announced the Valencorp scholarship program. 6 months of changes that sometimes left Zariah breathless. The fall semester at Columbia was in full swing, and Zariah's life had transformed completely. Her days were filled with classes, study groups, and the occasional visit to Valencorp headquarters, where she maintained her employment status while attending school full-time. "Ms. James, your presentation on market expansion strategies was excellent," Professor Winters said as Zariah gathered her notes after class. "You have a natural talent for identifying growth opportunities." "Thank you, Professor." Zariah smiled, still getting used to receiving praise so openly. "I understand you're working with Valencorp while completing your MBA. That's quite an accomplishment." "I've been fortunate," Zariah replied, thinking of how much had changed since that first night she'd accidentally stepped into Dominic's office. Outside the business school building, a sleek black car waited. Dominic stepped out as she approached, drawing admiring glances from passing students. "How was class?" he asked, kissing her cheek. "Challenging. Exciting." She smiled up at him. "What are you doing here? I thought you had meetings all afternoon." "Cancelled." He opened the car door for her. "I thought we could have an early dinner before your study group tonight." In the car, Zariah relaxed against the soft leather seat. "This is a nice surprise. Everything okay at the office?" "Fine." But something in his voice made her look at him more carefully. "Dominic?" He took her hand. "I've been thinking." "That sounds ominous," he laughed. "Not at all, just I've been watching you these past months, how you've thrived at Columbia, how confidently you speak in board meetings when you visit Valencorp. And I'm proud of you. You've stepped into this new chapter of your life with such grace." She squeezed his hand. "I couldn't have done it without you." "No, that's just it." His eyes were serious. "You absolutely could have. You just needed the opportunity." The car pulled up to their favorite restaurant, a small Italian place where they could enjoy privacy without formality. Inside, they were shown to their usual corner table. After they ordered, Dominic seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly. "Are you sure everything's okay?" Zariah asked. "You seem nervous." He set his phone down with a small smile. "Just checking the time. I'm expecting a call. On a Saturday. Business never sleeps." He reached across the table for her hand. "How are things with your mother? Has she adjusted to you living with me?" Zariah laughed. "She's still getting used to the idea of her daughter living with that billionaire. Man, as she calls you. But the fact that you invited my whole family for Thanksgiving helped. They're important to you. That makes them important to me." She smiled, remembering how Dominic had charmed her skeptical mother and played video games with her teenage brothers. How naturally he'd fit into the chaos of her family. "My mom asked when we're getting married," she said, watching his reaction carefully. They'd been living together for 4 months now, but neither had pushed for more. The key necklace he'd given her at the gala still hung around her throat, a promise of someday, but not yet. Dominic's expression softened. "What did you tell her?" "That we're enjoying where we are right now, that we have time." "Do you want more?" he asked quietly. "Are you waiting for me to ask?" Zariah considered the question seriously. "I'm happy." "Dominic, happier than I've ever been. Marriage it's just a piece of paper, really." "Is that what you believe?" "I believe in what we have, the rest is just details." She took a sip of her wine. "Why, are you thinking about it?" Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He checked it, then smiled. Perfect timing. Your important call? Not exactly. He stood. Come with me for a minute. Confused, Zariah followed him through the restaurant and out a side door she hadn't noticed before. It led to a small private garden, lit with string lights that glowed softly in the early evening darkness. What is this place? She asked, looking around at the flowers and small trees surrounding a central fountain. Part of the restaurant. The owner is a friend. Dominic guided her to a bench near the fountain. Sit with me? As they sat, Zariah noticed a small wrapped package on the bench. What's that? Open it, he said. Inside the box was a leather-bound sketchbook, its cover embossed with her initials. Tucked inside was a set of professional watercolor brushes. These are beautiful, she said, running her fingers over the soft bristles. Look, inside the sketchbook. Zariah opened it to find the first page already held a painting, a watercolor of a door standing slightly ajar, light spilling through the opening. The style was different from hers, less practiced but full of feeling. Did you paint this? She asked, amazed. He nodded, suddenly looking vulnerable. I've been taking lessons, secretly. I wanted to understand what you love about it. Dominic, she was touched beyond words. This powerful man had been quietly learning to paint, just to share something she cared about. Turn the page, he said softly. The next page held another watercolor, this one of her sitting by the window in their apartment, morning light illuminating her face as she read, When did you do this? Last Sunday. You were so absorbed in your textbook you didn't notice me watching you. He touched her face gently. You looked so beautiful, so at peace. I wanted to capture that moment. Tears pricked at her eyes. It's lovely. There's one more page. She turned to the third page and gasped. It wasn't a painting this time, but a photograph of a small house on a quiet street, surrounded by trees in full autumn color. What is this? Dominic took a deep breath. It's a house. In Connecticut, about an hour from the city. Okay, and you're showing me this because I bought it. For us. Zariah stared at him. You bought a house without telling me. Before you get upset. He held up his hands. I know it seems presumptuous, but hear me out. She crossed her arms, waiting. These past 6 months, watching you blossom at Columbia, seeing how you balance school and family and still make time for us, it's made me realize something. He took her hands in his. The penthouse never felt like home until you moved in. And even then, it's still just a place where I sleep. It's not ours, it's mine, and you live there. And this house would be different. This house would be ours. From the beginning. Something we build together. His eyes were earnest. And it has a room that gets the perfect morning light. I thought it could be your studio for your painting. Zariah looked back at the photograph, trying to imagine it. A home of their own, away from the city and the corporate world of Valencorp. A quiet place where she could paint, where they could just be themselves. It's a big step, she said finally. I don't know, and if you hate the idea, we can forget it. I'll sell the house, we'll stay in the penthouse, whatever makes you happy. She touched his face. It's not that I hate the idea, it's just, you're making these huge decisions without me. First the scholarship, now a house. He had the grace to look sheepish. I get carried away sometimes. When I see something I want, I go after it. Like buying a house, like making a home with you. The simple honesty in his voice melted her resistance. Can we see it, before I decide? He smiled. We can go tomorrow. It's only an hour away. Okay. She leaned in to kiss him. Tomorrow. As they walked back into the restaurant, Zariah noticed something was different. The entire place was empty except for their table, where a bottle of champagne now waited in an ice bucket. Where is everyone? I rented the whole restaurant for the evening. He guided her back to their seat. I wanted privacy for what comes. Text. Dominic Vale, what are you up to? She narrowed her eyes suspiciously. Instead of answering, he filled their champagne glasses. A toast. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, she echoed, still not sure what was happening. After they clinked glasses, Dominic set his down and reached into his pocket. Zariah, there's something else I need to tell you. More surprises. I'm not sure my heart can take it, he smiled nervously. Just one more, the biggest one. And then, to her shock, he slid from his chair to one knee beside her. What are you doing? She whispered, though she knew exactly what was happening. Something I've been thinking about for months. He took her hand. Zariah James, you walked into my office and into my life when I was at my lowest. You saw past the walls I'd built, past the rumors and the coldness I showed the world. You found something worth loving in a man who had forgotten how to love himself. Tears filled her eyes as he continued. These past 6 months have shown me what life can be when you share it with the right person. I don't want to wait anymore for someday. I want forever, starting now. He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it to reveal a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. Will you marry me? Zariah stared at the ring, then at the man holding it, this powerful, complex man who had transformed her life and allowed her to transform his. Who had created opportunities not just for her, but for others like her through the scholarship program. Who had learned to paint just to understand her better. Yes, she said, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. Yes, I'll marry you. His hands trembled slightly as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he was lifting her from her chair, spinning her around as she laughed through her tears. I love you, he whispered against her lips. So much. I love you too. She looked at the ring sparkling on her finger. The emerald is beautiful. To match the dress you wore the night of the gala, the night I knew for certain I never wanted to be without you. Later, as they sipped champagne and made plans for tomorrow's visit to their new house, Zariah marveled at how much her life had changed in less than a year. From junior file clerk to MBA candidate and future Mrs. Vale, it seemed impossible. What are you thinking? Dominic asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. About that first night, when I accidentally walked into your office. He smiled. Best accident of my life. Do you think it was really an accident, or was it fate? I don't know about fate, he took her hand, his thumb brushing over her engagement ring. But I do know that sometimes the wrong door leads to exactly the right place. The Connecticut house was more beautiful than the photograph had shown. Nestled among maple trees turning bright red and gold, the colonial-style home had a wraparound porch, shuttered windows, and a red front door that reminded Zariah of storybook houses she'd dreamed of as a child. What do you think? Dominic asked as they walked up the stone path. It's perfect. She squeezed his hand. It feels like home already. Inside, hardwood floors gleamed in the sunlight, streaming through large windows. The kitchen was modern but warm, with copper pots hanging above a center island. A stone fireplace dominated the living room, with built-in bookshelves on either side. And this, Dominic said, leading her upstairs, is what I wanted to show you most. He opened a door at the end of the hallway and Zariah gasped. The room was flooded with morning light from floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the garden. A simple wooden easel stood in the center. Your studio, he said, if you want it. She walked into the room, imagining canvases lining the walls, paint splattered on drop cloths, the scent of watercolors and creativity filling the air. It's perfect, she whispered. There's a smaller room next door that could be an office, for when you're working from home after graduation. She turned to him, eyes shining. You've thought of everything. I tried. He wrapped his arms around her waist. I want you to be happy here. I will be, we will be. As they explored the rest of the house, Zariah could see their future unfolding in each room. Christmas mornings in front of the fireplace, summer evenings on the porch, maybe someday children's laughter echoing through the hallways. When can we move in? She asked as they stood in the master bedroom, looking out at the autumn leaves. Dancing in the breeze. Whenever you're ready, it's already ours. Zariah kissed him, feeling more certain than she ever had. Let's do it. Let's make this our home. Back in the city that evening, they celebrated with dinner at Zariah's mother's apartment. The news of their engagement was met with tearful hugs from her mother and high fives from her brothers. I knew he was serious the minute I met him, her mother said, admiring the ring. A man doesn't look at a woman that way unless he's planning forever. Later, as they drove back to the penthouse for one of their last nights there, Dominic's phone rang. He answered through the car's Bluetooth. Vale. Mr. Vale, it's Harrison. The board member's voice filled the car. I've just received some concerning information about the Johnson merger. Dominic's expression darkened. What kind of information? It appears they've been less than forthcoming about their financials. The quarterly reports don't match what our investigators have found. How bad is it? Bad enough that we should reconsider the entire deal. Can you come in tomorrow? The board wants an emergency meeting. Dominic glanced at Zariah, regret in his eyes. They'd planned to spend Sunday packing for the move. I'll be there. After he hung up, he sighed. I'm sorry. The Johnson deal was supposed to be our biggest acquisition this year. Don't apologize, she took his hand. It's your job. We have plenty of time to pack. He brought her hand to his lips. Have I told you lately how extraordinary you are? Only every day, she smiled. But I don't mind hearing it again. At the penthouse, they stayed up late, talking about wedding plans and ideas for the house. Zariah couldn't help but marvel at the difference between Dominic now and the man she'd first met, the cold, controlled CEO who wouldn't let anyone into his office or his life. What? He asked, catching her thoughtful gaze. I was just thinking about how far we've come. She traced the line of his jaw. The man I met that first night would never have bought a house in Connecticut or learned to paint watercolors. The man you met that first night was barely living. He pulled her closer on the couch. You taught me how to open doors again. How to let light in. We taught each other. She settled against his chest. I never would have applied to Columbia or stood up to Peterson without you believing in me. You had it in you all along. He kissed the top of her head. I just helped you see it. In the morning, Dominic left early for his board meeting, while Zariah began sorting through her things, deciding what to keep and what to donate before the move. Around noon, her phone rang, Dominic's executive assistant. Ms. James, Mr. Vale asked me to call. The board meeting is running long and he wanted to let you know he might be late getting home. Thank you for letting me know. Also, he wanted me to tell you that the painter will be at the house tomorrow morning at 9 to discuss colors for the studio. Zariah smiled. Even in the middle of a crisis, he was thinking of her. Please tell him I got the message. She spent the afternoon packing books and sorting through clothes, occasionally stopping to admire her engagement ring or flip through the sketchbook Dominic had given her. By evening, she'd made good progress, with several boxes stacked by the door. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. Still stuck in meetings, don't wait up, love you. Zariah replied with a heart emoji, then decided to make use of the quiet evening. She set up her watercolors on the kitchen table and began painting the view from their penthouse window, the city lights coming on as dusk settled over New York. It was after midnight when she heard the front door open. Dominic looked exhausted, as he dropped his keys on the entry table. Hey, she said softly. Long day? The longest. He loosened his tie. The Johnson deal is dead. They've been cooking their books for years. I'm sorry. He shook his head. Don't be. We dodged a bullet. If we'd gone through with the merger, he sighed. Anyway, it's handled. The press release goes out tomorrow. Come see what I did while you were saving Valencorp. She led him to the kitchen where her painting was drying. His expression softened as he looked at the cityscape she'd created. It's beautiful, our last view of the city from this height. I thought we could hang it in the new house, a memory of where we started. He pulled her into his arms. I like that idea. After a moment, he added, I'm sorry I wasn't here to help with packing. It's okay, I made good progress. She looked up at him. Besides, you're here now. I am. He kissed her tenderly. And I'm not going anywhere. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of packing, moving, and settling into their new home. The house in Connecticut quickly transformed from an empty space to a warm, lived-in home filled with both their possessions. Zariah's studio was the first room completed, with soft cream walls and track lighting that could be adjusted for different times of day. She set up her easel by the window, arranging her growing collection of paints and brushes on a table nearby. Dominic commissioned built-in bookshelves for the living room, insisting they needed space for the books they'd collect over a lifetime together. He also surprised her with a piano, explaining that he'd always wanted to learn but never made the time. "Maybe we can take lessons together," he suggested. Another thing to share. Life settled into a pleasant rhythm. Weekdays, Zariah attended classes in the city, while Dominic worked at Valencorp. Evenings and weekends were spent at their Connecticut home, cooking together, walking through the nearby woods, or simply reading by the fireplace. Valencorp was changing too. Under Dominic's leadership, the company had expanded the scholarship program, now sponsoring 10 employees annually. Peterson had been reassigned to a satellite office, not because of his treatment of Zariah, but due to restructuring priorities, as the official memo stated. Ms. Winters had softened somewhat, occasionally asking about Zariah's classes when she visited the executive floor. The whispers had stopped. Old gossip had been replaced with new stories about how the CEO and his fiancée had revitalized the company's commitment to employee development. One Saturday morning, as winter approached, Zariah found Dominic in his home office, staring out the window at the first snowfall of the season. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "I was thinking about my office at Valencorp." He turned to face her. "The one where we met." "What about it?" "I'm thinking of having it redesigned. It's time for a change." She raised an eyebrow. "The sacred space that no one was allowed to enter. You're going to change it." It served its purpose. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "It was where I hid from the world, where I licked my wounds after the divorce, and where I found you." He smiled. "Or rather, where you found me." "What kind of changes are you thinking?" "Windows, for one. No more heavy curtains blocking the light. Maybe a conference table so I can actually collaborate with people instead of shutting them out." He pulled her closer. "What do you think?" "I think it sounds perfect." She kissed him softly. "Just like everything else these days." Later that afternoon, as they walked through the snowy woods near their house, Dominic suddenly stopped and turned. To her, "I've been meaning to ask you something." "What is it?" "The wedding. Have you decided when you want to do it?" They'd been engaged for nearly 2 months, but between the move and Zariah's classes, they hadn't settled on a date. "I was thinking spring," she said, "when the trees bloom. Maybe here, in the garden behind the house." He nodded. "Spring sounds perfect. And small? Just family and close friends?" "Exactly. Nothing flashy or corporate." She smiled. "Just us making promises we intend to keep." "Speaking of promises." He took her hands in his. "I want to make one now." "Okay. I promise that no matter how busy things get at Valencorp, no matter how many emergencies or meetings or deals, you will always come first. This," he gestured between them, "will always come first." Tears pricked at her eyes. "I promise too, that no matter what opportunities come my way after graduation, no matter where my career takes me, we'll face it together, as partners." He sealed the promise with a kiss as snowflakes fell around them, turning the world quiet and white. That evening they built a fire in the living room and sat side by side on the couch, drinking hot chocolate and planning their spring wedding. The house creaked gently around them, settling into its first winter with its new owners. "Do you remember?" Dominic asked quietly. "The note I left with the key to my office? What it said?" Zariah smiled. "You don't need an invitation anymore. You're already inside." "I meant it then, and I mean it even more now." He took her hand, the emerald ring catching the firelight. "You're inside my heart, Zariah James, and you always will be." As the fire burned low and night fell outside their windows, Zariah rested her head on his shoulder, content in the knowledge that they had both found what they'd been looking for, a love that didn't need locked doors or closed curtains, a love built in the open, strong enough to withstand whatever challenges life might bring. They had opened the door to a future neither could have imagined that first night in his office, and they had walked through it together, into the light. The end.